You are watching The Guy Dawson Show at the World Center of Broadcast Media, WCOBM.com. And Corintha, we always take this time during the show to let people know how they can watch us on multiple platforms.
Oh, absolutely. You can watch The Guy Dawson Show on Facebook, on YouTube. You can also, of course, we're working on our archives right now, but you could literally binge watch The Guy Dawson Show if
Yes,
you wanted to on YouTube. So just to let you know some of the platforms that we're out there on. And always feel free to chime in on our shows. We welcome any guest comments that show up that we could even respond to while we're hosting the show.
That's right. We have a messenger that allows you to be able to be completely interactive with the show. We are also seeking subscribers. Anyone that would like to subscribe to the network for the channel for The Guy Dawson Show. We love subscribers, people who want to come over and regularly binge watch. 2 years, over 2 years worth of content, a lot of interviews and interesting experiences we've had.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm happy to be a part of the new Guy Dawson Show, or what's happening now. The current times.
We were doing the last segment, and I was talking about some of the talents that Miss Corintha Turvalon, the queen of all media, has, and she has an interest that I don't know if you've shared a lot about since you've been guest hosting with me, and that is documentaries. Why are documentaries so interesting to you?
So documentaries are really interesting to me. I believe that really, if you look at what a documentary is, it's just a film. It's a film, but it's typically taken more seriously, or thought of as usually having more serious material. But then you have documentaries like Being Canadian, which is absolutely hysterical, by the way, and you should watch it. Everyone should watch it. And it explores the stereotypes of what Canadians go through, especially when they live here in the States. And but it does it in a really funny, sharp, sarcastic, witty way. So you have the whole spectrum of documentaries. People think, oh my goodness, they're so serious. And we've talked about, that OJ Made in America, that documentary series.
Oh yeah, what is a binge watching?
I just finished that last night, and I am so disturbed right now. Let me tell you. But that's the sign of a good documentary. If it hits your emotions and it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it does what a really good Toastmaster speech does for you, then a documentary is like a really long Toastmaster speech.
That's true, isn't it?
Yes.
With the information and the educational aspect of it, and it's thought-provoking.
Yes.
That's what these documentaries are all about, and I have really grown to enjoy documentaries through the years being in journalism and hosting these shows, and it's really a natural partnership, journalism and creating documentaries.
Oh, absolutely. And you would be surprised. I just talked to one of the major local channels here, and they were telling me that they're actually up for an Emmy for a documentary that they produced. So you would not know it, but we actually have local channels here in Las Vegas that produce documentaries. But we don't hear about it that often. We think, oh, a documentary, they're all being made in New York and LA, or on Viceland. I watch a lot of Viceland, like probably way too much, to the point where I get really disturbed about how terrible humanity is after a while.
And that's one of the challenges that people have with documentaries, right, Corintha?
Yes.
I'm a big believer that humanity is basically good.
Yes.
And when you watch documentaries too much, I think that, I don't know. What do you think about that? You feel disturbed at how people can be to one another. And
oh my goodness, you can get bogged down in it. If I find that I have to cut myself off at a certain point, like I'm like, okay, I've watched way too much Viceland today, and now I need to watch something that's going to make me happy, that's funny and light. Like I'll pick a comedy show or something, or the Food Channel, or something that's going to make me happy when I watch it. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I'm really particularly interested in documentaries just because of the power that they have to affect people in those ways that we talked about just now. Their emotions, they're very thought-provoking. For right now, I'm actually considering doing a documentary for my thesis project. I'm a UNLV graduate student for journalism over at the Hank Greenspun College of Urban Affairs. Go Rebels. But we actually it's really interesting because ever since I've expressed this interest, it's really interesting. I actually, today, when I leave here, I'm going to go work on a class documentary that I'm working on with my professor, where he suggested, instead of us doing a traditional paper for this graduate seminar, he said, how would you guys like to do a documentary? And we said, sure, why not? Sounds like fun. So I'll be getting that hands-on experience actually starting today. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm really hoping that it's going to help me in terms of me pursuing my documentary dreams and goals in terms of turning that in as my thesis project at UNLV. So I'm very excited.
That's an interesting perspective that you offer on that, Corintha. We live in a society where people don't read very much anymore, but they need information.
Yes.
People want to know things. They just don't necessarily want to sit and read about things that they want to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Documentaries are so powerful. That coupled with podcasts.
Yes.
Such as we've been talking about, how all these shows are podcasts. You can watch them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's the same with the documentaries. I was on vacation last summer. Well, I wasn't on vacation. My grandmother passed away. And I was in Southern California, staying with a friend, and I had my laptop with me, and that was when I started watching the OJ documentary. And it was great to be able to just tune in whenever I wanted to. It's just a wonderful way to get information. I wouldn't have really wanted to. There was all kinds of books out there about that trial. I never had an interest in reading.
No.
It was so much more interesting to watch the whole evolution of it, all the things that were happening. I remembered it. It brought back memories, and that's why I think documentaries are only going to become more critical and important in the viewing patterns of people in our country and in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And you even take a case like that OJ Made in America and that American Crime Story, and we've both watched both, so we know. While they did an amazing job and absolutely won the award, when they won those awards for those Emmys that they won for that series, they deserve them. I mean, that Sarah Paulson, performance of Marsha Clark was
phenomenal.
Incredible. But at the same time, I felt like there was so much more that you got out of the documentary that you didn't get in the drama series, because there was certain aspects that the drama series brought out that you didn't know about, and then there's aspects that you felt like you got a completely entire worldview and perspective of what was happening in Los Angeles, what the history was of the police, in certain communities, and specifically black communities in LA, and all of that. You got all of that history, even OJ's history. They didn't really go into a lot of OJ's history, if at all, in the drama series, but in the documentary they did. They went into his childhood. What was it like for him to grow up? That's what I really feel like a good documentary does. It gives you a whole perspective of the good and the bad. You see where his evolution of how he developed throughout his life through that. And that's why they named it very appropriately, O.J. Simpson Made in America,
Yeah, there's a background, and I had a documentarian who came on a few months ago. Actually, it was later in the summer, and he talked about a documentary that he created about harassment in the military, sexual harassment. He had two documentaries, but the one that really stood out for me was this. I watched it. I was out in LA. I guess I was in documentary mode when I was out there over the summer.
That's appropriate.
And I watched this documentary about sexual harassment in the military, and they talked about all the women. I mean, it was unbelievable, the amount of women who he interviewed who talked about some of the most grotesque forms of sexual harassment, rape that had happened to them while they were serving in the military. And I really didn't have any idea. I mean, I've heard of things about it, like Tailhook years ago. They talked about a bunch of military people came to Las Vegas, actually, and a bunch of women got raped. And so you'll hear about things like that, but then it just kind of passes through the news cycle. But with a documentary, you get much more of the behind-the-scenes perspective that these women came on, and they talked about how they got harassed all through their careers in the military.
Oh wow, I feel like that's really the connection between journalism and these documentaries, is that you have this really investigative reporting that's happening that you have to do in order to make a good documentary. And that's what really good journalism is. When you have really good investigative journalism, those are the reports that you see on the news that you respect those reporters, because you know that they're doing their homework and they're, crossing their T's and dotting their, their I's. I think it's interesting too because of kind of going through the process myself a little bit. So basically what our documentary that we're working on in my class is going to be about, it's going to be about kind of demystifying or demythifying Las Vegas. We don't have a title yet, but we're going to use cultural studies critical theory, that's critical of media, and basically look at, okay, what are those stereotypes that people think of when they think of Las Vegas? And we're basically going to be myth busting all of that.
Like that all of us live in hotels?
Yes, yes.
People really do believe that if you live in Vegas, you must live on the Strip in a hotel.
Yes.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, first off, we could never afford it. There's too many of us that live here. I mean, really? Do you expect me to, just be staying right down the hall from you while you're on your vacation? Like, I'm just going to, roll out of bed and put on my uniform and go serve you a cocktail? Like, no! That's not how this town works.
I know.
But yeah, so we're going to be kind of myth busting, kind of looking at the hospitality industry, looking at religion here in Las Vegas. We have strong religious communities here in Las Vegas.
We do. Actually, per capita, we have one of the highest ratios of churches or religious institutions in the world.
Absolutely.
In Sin City.
Yes, in Sin City, and people don't know that about us. And we have really interesting religions that are, in spiritual communities here in Las Vegas. We have, everything from there's two Ethiopian Christian churches here in Las Vegas that people don't know about, and they and we, because we have a strong Ethiopian community here in Las Vegas. So, you would never think, but it's there, and it's not just, it's international. We have everything international. We have universal churches. We have the Verve Church. I mean, of course, what's the big one? I can't even think right now.
The big church here? Oh,
yeah.
Central. Central Christian Church is a huge church here.
Like thousands of people, right? I mean,
yeah, and they have big stars who come and speak.
Oh, yes. So, you really kind of demystifying and myth busting those ideas of Las Vegas that, we're all heathens, that we gamble and we party all the time, and we work, but we don't really work, we just party a lot.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we do.
You'd be really surprised at how boring life. I mean, it's not that it's boring. We do have opportunities, I guess, that people don't have in other cities because it's 24 hours.
If you have money and if you have access.
Yeah,
that's the other key part of it.
The whole thing is that there's only 24 hours in a day, and we have to do all the same things that everybody in every other city. We have to go to work and pay our bills and spend time with our families.
That is a foreign concept. People don't think that we do that here in Las Vegas. It's insane. I'm like, what do you think that, we've had families roaming around casinos and that we're raising our children that way? No. You know who does that? Tourists. Tourists do that, and I've seen it, and it's terrible to do that.
Yeah. Well, they're on vacation, but yes.
Well, but it's something to be taken seriously, though, because, you have kids who are under 21, and, they're hanging out around a slot machine because of the bright lights, and they want to push the buttons, but they don't realize that, oh, wait a minute, this casino could lose its gambling license if someone found out or if it got reported. So that's why they're such sticklers about it.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the stories about people that were underage who won jackpots.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Literally have won jackpots, and they had to do full investigations, and it's really not a good thing. When an underage person wins a jackpot, not good. Not good for the city, not good for the casino.
It's a huge thing. So I'm excited to be working on this documentary. I'm also excited to be working on, I haven't really, so in terms of the documentary I'd like to do for my thesis, I'm actually doing some research right now. I'm working with a professor to get published with co-authoring a book chapter, and so I'm very excited about it. We're talking about another opportunity for us to publish together as well. And I looked at the hashtag ethnography on Twitter for right after the Philando Castile shooting, and it was pretty intense research, really heavy subject. And I don't know that I'd necessarily do my documentary on that, but I would love to do something with hashtags and social media and social activism. And how does that work? Because you have all these terms that come out now too, like the social activist who's just, can they really call themselves a social activist if they're just, hashtagging things on their couch? But are they calling their congressperson? Are they, calling their senators? Are they putting up petitions? Are they, being a part of, are they attending a town hall? Are they out in the streets protesting? But then the other side of the argument is that folks have a lot of issue with social protesters, because they're saying, oh, you're out there and all you're doing is impeding traffic. You're not really doing anything, and you had a really good case of that was recently in Los Angeles, where you had literally thousands upon thousands of people who protested in the Women's March. And right after Trump got elected, and right as that was happening. And then a few weeks later, or maybe a few weeks to a month later, they had their election for the Los Angeles mayor. Okay, that's a pretty big deal, right? The mayor of the whole city of Los Angeles, and Democrats were nowhere to be found. It's like, really? You want to affect real political change, and you don't want to get out and vote. And do I understand that, sometimes we get bogged down with what our choices are in terms of voting, so we'd rather not vote at all? Yeah, of course. But you're not affecting any political change by doing that. And the other part of it is that if you're really that bothered by it, run for something for office. Get yourself in those shoes so you can affect some real political change. So while I agree with social protest, I think it's fantastic, I do think there's the other side of it, where if you're not really affecting political change by your actions and other things that you're doing, then no. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, there's so many perspectives to look at things from, and there are people who tell me that they enjoy the format of this show because we're in like an obscure form of communication, and that we have, these very specific topics. We broadcast on the internet. We talk to people about a lot of different things. We have our nonprofit organizations, we have businesses, and we bring celebrities on here and politicians. We've had right wing, left wing.
Oh yeah.
And I think that our media climate, social media and the internet, and the growth of documentaries and how they've become so important. There are a lot of people who don't even watch TV anymore. All they do is watch documentaries on YouTube all day, or Hulu and these other channels. And I think that it's definitely creating more conversation. And I agree with you. I think that taking action is critical. There's a quote that I have from Dale Carnegie, and he talks about, any fool can criticize and condemn people, and most fools do.
Yes.
So anyone can sit back and criticize the system or politicians, but what are you actually doing? What are your actions? I don't know what they should be. It's not for me to decide. I mean, hashtagging and talking about things that's a form of action.
It is, but I think it goes along with what are you doing in addition to that.
Right. The people who take action are the people who change the world.
Yes. People
They
who
really
are
are.
starting nonprofit organizations, who are helping, advocating for animals, for, if they're passionate about a cause and they're working with an organization they're passionate about, or starting an organization because one didn't exist, those are people I respect, because they're taking action to help a situation and provide solutions and resources and support, versus just sitting on a couch and hashtagging.
I agree, and we are looking forward to having the opportunity to analyze your documentary on this show. We know it's coming, and at some point we will be able to show your documentary. We'll sit back here. You can explain the process. Maybe you'll have some of the people who helped you put it together. I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely. I'm excited to show it. Thanks for putting the pressure on me, guys. Now I have to do it.
That's
it's been
my
put
job.
Out in the universe.
Thank all of you for tuning into this week's edition of The Guy Dawson Show, and you can view our archives again on YouTube or at WCOBM.com, and we really appreciate your continued support. We have some amazing themes that are coming up, and keep tuning in every Thursday at 2 p.m. or watch the archives, binge if you like.
Yes.
24 hours a day, and we look forward to seeing you next week.